Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 15 of the ITSM Crowd. Today we've got a really interesting topic. It's been really popular. We're going to be talking about going solo and freelance work in IT service management. We're actually running this as a two-part hangout. So we've got this hangout that's happening now, and we've also got another one in 9 hours at 5 p.m. British summertime. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you weren't able to join this one, you're very welcome to join us live on the next one. We will be monitoring Twitter throughout the chat as well, so if you've got any questions about going freelance, just post them with the question and with the hashtag ITSM Crowd, and we'll pick that up and we'll be happy to talk about that within the 30 minutes that we've got. So the first thing I'm going to do is get our panel to introduce themselves. So working from left to right on my screen, Robert, if you could say hello first, please.
Hello, I'm Robert. I'm coming from Belgium, and I'm consultant in IT since 20 years now.
Thank you very much. And Bassab, are you with us? I think we might have temporarily lost Bassab. So James, if you want to say hello.
Yep, hi there, I'm James Gander. I've been a freelance consultant contractor for 6 years now, so I'm still a newbie.
Thank you. Bassab, are you able to say hello?
Hello. Yeah.
Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah. Let me introduce myself. I am Bashub. I am from India, and I have been ITSM for quite maybe a decade or more, and I started more with the ITSM tools, the CAHP and other tools, and then I moved more into processes. So I moved to ITSM certification in the version 2 from foundation, and then through the service management and service delivery track, I moved to version 3 expert, and I have designed processes, and also I have implemented ISO 20000 for a global organization. So that's pretty much brief what I am into. I love to get into ideation, and basically now getting into startup mode. That's as well as keeping in sync with the ITSM tools process, and beyond the ITSM into IT management as well. That's pretty much what I am.
Okay, thanks, Bassab. You're still very quiet, so if you can turn your microphone up, that'd be great. Karen, if you want to say hello.
Yeah, hi, I'm Karen Ferris, IT service management consultant operating out of Melbourne, Australia. I've been solo, well, on 2 occasions, once as a sole trader, just myself, for a couple of years. Then I went back and got what we were talking offline earlier, a real job for a large financial institution in Melbourne, and then to consulting. So we specialise in service management, as we all do, and also organisational change management.
Lovely, thank you. And Patricia?
Hello, I'm Patricia Tings from Belgium at the very moment. Next week I'll be in the UK, but this week I'm in Belgium. So I'm solo since 89, so 27 years.
Wow.
So in fact, I've made that choice very early in my career. I'm an ITL expert, and I moved a bit away from ITSM to be a coach and a mentor.
Lovely, thank you. And Simone? You're on mute, Simone.
There we go. How's that? Trying to do the right thing and not let the background noise come through. It's just the birds tweeting. As you can see, spring has sprung here in France. So I've been in the industry quite some time. I first set up a freelance company back in 2000, just myself, solo. And I left the corporate world actually and went and worked solo in a health clinic for a while, and then realized that no, we need to bring some of the health back into corporate. So came back and, as Karen just said, got a real job for a while. Then after a few mergers and acquisitions, as I call them, I got a little bit tired of just being in one single organization and wanted to have a wider experience. So I went freelance again, joined HCAA in Australia, did consulting and training. I have been doing that for quite some time in service management, and like Karen, a background in organizational change, and just love doing that. And bringing change to a variety of things is one of the great things about being freelance. So here I am freelance again, having moved countries. So there you go.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we've got a good geographical spread here on the panel, so hopefully we can kind of get some tips for different markets as well. My name's Claire Agata. I'm the lead tutor for ITSM Zone, and in the past I've been freelance as a trainer and a consultant, so hopefully I've got a few things that I can share as well. So we'll start with a question, and Karen, I'm going to put this question to you just to kick us off. When we talk about going freelance in IT service management, what sort of roles are available for people to do as a freelancer?
It really probably depends on their skill set and experience. So from my perspective, I operate as a consultant because I have a wide range of experience across most of the service management areas. But some people, if they like specialised in maybe change management, ITIL change management, could look at a role that's focused in that subject area. So they could either be a consultant or a distinction which we need to make between a contractor. Contract roles are pretty much, from my perspective, more like a body shop. I need someone to come in and do change management. I need someone to come in and sit on the service desk. Is more of a contract role as opposed to providing that advisory, coaching service as a consultant. So there's two distinct roles you can still do, sort of going solo.
Yeah, and to everybody else on the panel, what other freelance roles are available?
Well, I'd like to maybe challenge a little bit of what Karen said there, because a lot of the work I do is within the IT operations arena, and I quite often go in as a contract operations manager to backfill for people. But a lot of what I do ends up being consulting and mentoring of people while I'm there. So it's not a direct challenge, but I think there's quite often a bit of a melt between contract and consulting if you're working in a particular skill set. Because I've got quite a wide range of skills myself, maybe not as good as Kaz's, but
different, James. Different.
I think James is right, is that if you are, whichever area you're in, one of the cool things to do is go on to LinkedIn and look at the jobs in your geographical area, that you can quite often do those 1 month to 3 month, even up to 6 month fill-in roles. A lot of companies do look for fill-ins for whatever reason. The person's on leave or they have already left the organisation, and they're in a transition period and they just need someone that they know is not looking for a permanent role but will just help them get over the hump as they change into whatever model they might be moving to, things like that.
What I can add also is in Belgium, I would say that 17% of the freelance job really main operational things, tasks to do, replacement as you mentioned, Simon. But if you want really to do a consulting role, you have to find your job and the project yourself within your network or go directly to the customer. Otherwise, you will fall every time in an operational job. Yeah, This is the case in Belgium.
Yeah, and I think that there is often quite a lot of confusion about what we mean when we say a contractor and a consultant. When we talk about a consultant, tell me what we're talking about. What should a consultant actually do?
Okay, for example, today I'm acting as a consultant. I'm building for a startup all the operating model. So I designing the processes. I'm choosing the ITSM tool. We are doing an RFP for choosing the outsourced service desk. It's really a role of advice, giving guidance, and going in that way. And the contractor is really, for me, it's really operational tasks, applying, for example, as Karen said, the change management process into practice and so on. So there is two different roles, and this is my my understanding of those definitions actually.
Yeah, and I think that's a fairly fair distinction between the two, and I think many organisations actually run into problems using consultants because they're not clear on what they actually want. They maybe just wanted a contractor, but they actually went out and recruited for a consultant. Now, Patricia, you've taken a slightly different route as a freelancer, and you're doing coaching and mentoring now. Tell me about the sort of work that you do.
So I'm coming from the consultancy aspect of it, and the biggest frustration, and we already talked about it, is, well, the customer, they don't know what they want. They are not sure about the fact they want advice, or they want you to actually do the job. And one thing I really don't like as a consultant is when they ask me to do the job. Mm-hmm. I'm there to raise their autonomy level. And that's the reason why I went more in the mentoring and coaching aspect of it. And so now that's exactly what I sell. When I go to see a customer, I don't sell consultancy. Of course, I know ITIL, I'm an ITIL expert, I know the stuff, but I really make it very clear that what I sell is raising their level of autonomy with it. So it's the approach which is different. It's my mindset which is different, and is setting that mindset up with the customer very clear as from day one.
I so agree with that, Patricia. That it's so right, because I see the consultant as the person that's actually helping them build their own skill level and capability to do the work. Exactly. And I think, Claire, maybe we've made it quite clear, contracting seems to be the actual doing of the role, regardless of what level we might go in to do it as. But the consultant, that advisory and guiding, facilitating, coaching, mentoring, I think they all come together in that role to build the capability so they can do it for themselves.
Yeah,
and I think things I agree with Simone and Patricia. I think one of the things we always say, at Macanta, is that our aim is to empower the organisation. Our aim is really to do ourselves out of a job, so that the organisation can pick it up and run it, and we're not doing it for them. Unlike a lot of, maybe let's talk about some of the large consultancy companies who tend to be in organisations for years and years, and they're not empowering the organisation. They're sort of going under the the guise of consulting, but actually doing the job for them, and the organisation then can't dispose of them, to want to use a better word.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think where I was coming from with my statement was that when I go into contract as an operations manager, I like to do consulting while I'm there so that they can do without me.
I think we naturally do that, Jay.
Sorry?
I think if you go into contract as a temporary operations manager or service desk manager or any of those other type roles, as a manager or a leadership role, I think you naturally do that consulting anyway, because it's a task we would expect that role to have with their teams.
You don't always find it.
No, that's true. That's why they need us.
And I think that's one of the benefits of using both consultants and contractors, is you are getting somebody who can apply a pair of fresh eyes to the organisation. So even if they are coming in on a contract role to do the job, you would hope that they would be bringing some experience, some improvement, some suggestions with them as part of carrying out that role and based on their experience. But that's a really good tip, I think, that's come out from that conversation with Patricia and Simone and Karen and James, is that one of the key things about being freelance is scoping the work that you're going to do and being very clear with the customer from the outset about what will be delivered. So documenting the scope of work, getting the sign off from the customer, understanding what you are there to do at the end of the day can make things a lot easier when it comes to submitting the bill. So that's a really good tip for anybody who's thinking about going freelance. So we've mentioned
also the freelance trainer role as well.
I was just going to say that. Go on, talk to me about trainers.
Well, one of the things I think is pretty amazing is a lot of the ATOs within our industry are pretty strict about who you train with, or, you know, if you train for us, we don't want you training for someone else, and those types of things. So I think you have to be, as a freelance trainer, be very clear about the contract that you're signing with the ATO, because the fact is if they can't guarantee you a certain amount of work, then you do have to look for work elsewhere. They can't deny you that ability to be able to take on other training contracts with other organisations if they can't provide enough training days per year. So I think that's a really critical point for those that are freelance training. Besides the fact that you still need the ATO to sponsor you with the EIs to have your accreditation for certain certifications as well. So I think that's something, make sure that you look at the contract. Also, it does make a difference in the laws as to which country you're in as well. So just double checking those things is important as a freelance trainer.
And that's another really good point, is that when you are going freelance, you aren't just doing the job that you love anymore. There's also a big layer of business management that wraps around it, and you need to be ready to deal with finance, marketing, sales, legal, contracts. You know, Simone's just talking there about ATOs, which are accredited training organisations, EIs, which are exam institutes. You might be dealing with a whole level of bureaucracy that you've maybe been protected from in a full-time job. So there is a lot to think about, and I guess this is a good point to ask another question for the panel, which is, if somebody's in a permanent role at the moment and they're thinking about going freelance, is there anything that they can do to prepare while they're in that permanent role?
And I think that's one of the points you just talked about, Claire, is sort of that, you know, the legal side of things. I wouldn't have the foggiest idea. You know, I can read a contract, but I'm not reading the small print. So identify the things that you're good at and you can do, and take them on board, because, you know, cash is king and you want to spend money where you don't need to. But if, like, for example, with Macanta, if we get a contract, we send it to our legal people. We're prepared to pay for that, for the safety net that is. So identify the things that you need external help for and the things that you can do yourself. I think in preparation, you know, talk to other people like the panel here who've done it before and have probably, you know, done made the mistakes and had the successes that they can share. But also, you know, reach out to your network. If you're going alone, you need to do that marketing, and that might be just getting your name out there, attending seminars and webinars and conferences, and networking and letting people know what it is you can do and how you can help. Because if you just leave a permanent job, you know, it is a big risk. That paycheck's not guaranteed anymore, so you have to do as much preparation, I would say, up front to have a good chance of getting yourself some work following leaving that permanent role.
Yeah, I'd add to that you need to get experience in your permanent role. You don't want to go out there fresh-faced and not quite sure what you do, how you do it. You need to have quite a few hours under your belt so that you've got confidence in your own abilities, because when you go into a contract or a consulting gig, people are expecting you to hit the ground running and to know what you're talking about and to be able to offer good, sound, pragmatic advice. They don't just want somebody who goes in and can read the book for them. So you need to really be confident. And sometimes that confidence comes from other people telling you that you know what you're doing rather than believing it yourself.
And I think that's a good point, James. It's not only just having confidence in yourself, it's about your potential clients having confidence in you, so that you can actually show that you have had the runs on the boards and you have done this stuff before and you know what you're talking about. So, you know, there's no gaps in the resume when you're saying I'm going to do, you know, X, and there's nothing there to justify or support the fact that you've done it before.
Yeah. I know in New Zealand, and I'm guessing probably Australia as well, but I couldn't tell you within Europe or India, it is all about your network. You need to make sure you know plenty of people in the market. New Zealand, especially with it being a small market, I mean, there's 4 million of us in New Zealand. It's not even a good-sized European city.
Well, I must admit, having moved to Europe from Australia, New Zealand, that networking aspect for freelancing is so critical. And you know, you're talking about preparing, leaving a permanent role. I think that you know, you need to give yourself a good year, you know, prior to making the jump sometimes, of building that network in the location and area of business that you're wanting to be in. My experience here is I've found that most people working from Europe travel a lot all over Europe and in other countries as well. So, Robert, have you found the same thing? If, you know, you're in Belgium, but we don't always tend to do the work in the country we live in. Sometimes the work we're doing is in other countries.
Yeah, that's right, because Belgium is also a small market. So I'm willing. I often go to Luxembourg and try to do business in the Netherlands and in France because it's very close to my house. So, but network is really important because people can refer to you. When you go directly to the customer, you know, we sell our knowledge and we don't sell a product, and this is really difficult to attract the customer to that. So we have to have a strong network and work with this network and then extend it, of course, but this is really the most difficult thing when you go as a freelance, because you try to sell your knowledge and the people should trust you without knowing you, and this is the big challenge.
And I think we've got so many more opportunities now in the age of social media to think about personal branding as well. So if you want to move into a consultancy role or you are thinking about going freelance, think about what you're doing on LinkedIn, on Twitter, in Facebook groups, so that maybe if a customer thinks, I'm looking for somebody, your name's already in their mind because you know, they've seen a post you did on LinkedIn or you've interacted with them on Twitter. The opportunities for us to build networks are kind of greater than we've ever had. And another tip I have kind of from my career is, if you're thinking about going freelance, maybe look for a transitional position. So when I knew I wanted to move into consulting, I went and found a consultancy firm and I got a job as a fairly junior consultant, but the experience that I gained there was absolutely critical for me then when I was building my own career. So there are maybe, you know, training jobs, consulting jobs where you are still employed, but you're gaining the experience and skills that are going to help you in the future, and that can be a nice way rather than just diving straight in.
Can I ask the panel what their time and effort that they find having to put into things like being active across social media, etc., versus making sure that we upskill ourselves or maintain our skill levels as well, and then you've got doing the actual business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge that, you know, you're working in the business as a consultant, but you then need time to work on the business. You know, just maintaining, you know, the social media presence, but also we talked about, you know, the finances and the billing, the invoicing that has to be done, you know, the contractual things, but also, you know, maintaining your website. I mean, that's one of the roles I have here, and it's time consuming. So you can find, you know, that in the week you're working, you know, in the business, and in the evenings and weekends you're working on it to, you know, maintain your website, Facebook page, social media presence, etc.
Yeah, and my experience is that over the years it became harder and harder. So I have to spend far more time today with admin things, social media than I used to in the past, but it's a must. We have to do that. And something I want to add as well is we talked a lot about network in order to find an assignment, but I also want to mention your social network. When you get freelance, you're on your own. And I see that as a coach. I have people who got freelance and they are isolated, they need help because it's a big risk. So the fears are coming back, the stress is there. We mentioned the confidence issue. So you might need help either from your social network, your friends, or from a professional. I'm doing that kind of thing. And I see how useful it can be for some of the people just, to give a little kick there, just to kick their confidence a bit, to help them to overcome the stress and things and the fears, because there are a lot of fears as soon as you become independent.
I think there's a lot of wonderful things about being freelance. I mean, you can see I'm sitting in my lounge at home doing this, talking to my industry colleagues. There's plenty of technology to assist us in doing that, but establishing which groups you want to be in, which parts of the network will help you. But you will find that your industry colleagues are incredibly supportive, and that the benefits of being able to work from home, but that isolation, be careful that my husband calls it turning into troglodyte mode. You can sit there in your comfortable clothes and the kitchen is just there. It can be very easy mentally to fall into silence, I guess, and not actively participating in your network. And you really do need to do that. To maintain your own sanity, yes, but also to keep a part of what's happening in the industry as well.
Yeah. The hardest thing I found going freelance was the fact that you have to set up your own company and trying to come up with a name, something that stands out and makes people remember you.
You do that, James. You did well.
Difficult.
That's the fun part.
I hate that part more than everything else.
That's the best bit over a few glasses of wine, trying to think of the name for the company. It's all great fun.
I still don't have a name for the company. It's just me. That's the other thing. See, as a freelancer, you have to be aware you become your own product. You are your product. And that's something so different to hiding behind an organization, if you like, and their logo, etc. Because you're right, James. Coming up with a name or coming up with your logo is such a personal branding thing. It's not just about the company, it is you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the joys and the terrible things about freelancing is when things go fantastically, you're working for your own financial reward, you're working for your own personal reward, it's brilliant. When you have those weeks when things maybe aren't going so well, you can feel very isolated, and like Patricia says, there is that kind of fear that comes. So I think that there's kind of great highs, but there are lows as well, and people need to be a little bit prepared for that. I think sometimes people go freelance with maybe rose-tinted spectacles on a little bit about what they think it's going to be like. They don't realise how much time you spend getting the work and then sometimes chasing up the bills when you've done the work as well. You need to think about that sometimes too.
You don't always have as much free time as you think you'll have when you go freelance.
Yeah. And sometimes you have more than you ever hope to have.
Yes, that's the other end of the equation, isn't it?
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our time, so I always like to finish with a few top tips. So, Robert, if we can start with you, please. Have you got any kind of top tips for anybody thinking of going freelance?
Yes, visibility is very important. So increase your visibility, increase your network power, and hopefully you will be successful.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Bassab, I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, are you able to hear me? It's better now?
Yes, that is better. We're just wrapping up, so if you've got any quick top tips about going freelance for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing that we need to put two things in focus. One is being product agnostic, and other will be working in collaboration, because each of us have certain strength areas, and working in that team as connected freelancers would be great. And the third thing I want to add is that maybe we can get a centralized support in terms of legal and marketing, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel again and again individually.
Yeah, and I think collaboration is something that's absolutely key, and many freelancers will find some of the best work they do comes through their network. James, any top tips?
Only above what we've already said is when you're building up your network, and I know this works in New Zealand, but don't upset anybody, because it will come back and bite you.
That's good advice. Karen?
Yeah, I just echo what James said. I've done work in Canberra, which is a very small town with lots of consultants, and people say that's one city you do not do anything wrong, because your name will wear that for forever. So be very careful with your brand, absolutely. And I think my top tip would just be prepared. Just think about, don't just jump into it. Be prepared, get things in motion, at least 6 to 12 months before you make the jump. Have your business set up, have your website, have you, do you need help with legal stuff, and just get yourself across what it's going to mean to run a small business, whether it's you or a couple of people.
Sounds good. Patricia?
So, as Karen said, you're your own tool when you are independent, so take care of yourself.
Thank you very much. And Simone?
I don't think there's much more I can add to what we've already got, except, be brave. You have it within you. You have the knowledge. Build your trust, build your credibility, build your network, and you know what? Get out there and just make a difference.
Thank you very much. And I think I would add to that as well. Yes, it's wonderful to be prepared, and yes, it's good to have, every kind of experience under the sun, but sometimes I think you've just got to go out there and do it, and some of the most exciting things I've done have come from challenging myself to do things that I didn't really think I could do. So yeah, I absolutely agree, be brave. So I'd like to say thank you to our panel from this part one of the Going Solo Hangout. It's been a really, really good discussion and some fantastic advice. We are doing this again later today with another panel of experienced freelance people from the ITSM Zone mentor crew. So if you have enjoyed this and you want to see that discussion again with maybe some different perspectives, please do join us. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for watching, and thank you to the panel. Thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.